that pulled out or couldn't make it because of foreign policies and things going on. We're in a foreign country now, so it's a foreign policy, U.S. governmental policies. And Alex stepped in and delivered our keynote for us this morning, which was just super awesome of him, and has also been hugely active on the Content Steering Committee and done so much for this day, and it was a pleasure working with you. So thank you for everything you did. Can you please give Alex a big hand?
And actually, likewise to Lisa, we should really thank her for all the work that she's done in organizing all of this with the community. It has been actually an absolute pleasure working together. So, sorry. So I realized that I'm kind of standing between you and the end of the day, so I'll try and keep this really quick. So it's basically a recap of what we talked about today, and it's kind of like a handy reference going forward. So we think 2019 is the year of Kubernetes and the enterprise. We have hundreds of vendors all pushing towards the same technology, helping you to get there. Enterprises are gaining big wins from Kubernetes and stateful applications, and stateful applications are obviously the next logical step in your environments. We discussed some of the principles of cloud-native storage, and we talked about the different access interfaces and the different orchestrator management interfaces. And we had some good questions around understanding failover and the different functionality that different storage providers give you. Don't forget, there is no such thing as a stateless application. All applications have to store state somewhere. So we talked a little bit about in the day 2 session around making sure that the applications and the storage environments are self-service, and that we use the provisioning capabilities of the orchestrator to do that. But of course, paying careful attention to things like disaster recovery, upgrades, and different hardware lifecycle events. And we heard from Franco talking about his experiences and the problems with putting things into production. So making sure that you understand things like the IOPS and other issues like network congestion, but also some of the other storage attributes, like making sure that you think about synchronous replication or the various consistency mechanisms that you're implementing. And again, you know, this is kind of like a repeated mantra, but when it comes to storage in Kubernetes, orchestrate your storage. So that is the most important thing. So whether it's the backups, whether it's all of the other day 2 operations are really important. And make sure that you have that you've taught about things like instrumentation and metrics and logging, because all of those things are going to be important when you're trying to debug your first problem. We talked about, we had a panel talking about you know, what you want from a from a container storage system. You know, and again, we're repeating the same mantra. There's no such thing as stateless. It has been a traditional challenge in Kubernetes, but it's something where we now have you know, a vast set of technologies that can help us. We get, by using a container storage system, we get the orchestrated control plane integrating with Kubernetes. We get to compose and declare storage requirements with our applications. And abstractions like operators and the CSI drivers also allow the developers to effectively express their intent. So you can now define what you need out of your storage environment easily. You know, again, coming back to some of the stuff we discussed with the day 2 operations, consider the full life cycle of the data. It's not just the initial automation of provisioning the volume or whatever, but it's also how you do backups and that sort of thing. One of the key things that we learned today was, you know, having storage as having cloud-native storage does help to avoid the lock-in to specialized cloud services, and it does mean that you can run different environments in a set of hybrid options. So, you can have development in cloud and production on-prem and various other mixtures by using the abstraction of a storage system with the abstraction of Kubernetes. And as always, consider security and data access. And we also touched on some of the next big things like multi-clouds and the data lifecycle and the agility of building some of the next level abstractions, like, for example, abstractions for databases. We talked about the end user experience with a number of people, with a couple of end users talking about their experiences of running databases in Kubernetes. So, this is all about being able to run the database yourself so that you benefit from making sure that you have the right versions and you have the flexibility to upgrade and implement the functionality that you need. You can use Kubernetes to abstract the infrastructure for your databases just like any of the other stateful applications, and this removes the lock-in from different platforms. And one of the things that's come up a few times today is the emergence of database operators. So it's still new technology, but it is very promising, and the operators effectively allow you to automate some of the things that a human would need to do in the past. Of course, with all of these things, running your own benchmarks and understanding your workloads is key. So make sure you can do that yourself too. Some of the challenges are around managing failover, getting some improved database operators. But as with all of these things, right, it's not a magic solution. Just deploying a database in Kubernetes but not having any database experience obviously is the wrong thing to do. You need to understand what you're deploying. Some of the other things that we talked about, so the operators and Helm charts are a really big help, but they do need to be understood. You need to understand how to manage upgrades and other day 2 requirements. Again, the end user panel was talking about as you get over some of the first hurdles like reliability and failover, it's also important to have predictable performance, and that's just as important. And then furthermore, moving on, things like access control and multi-tenancy and integration into the rest of the platform is the next important thing. In all of this, obviously the developers need to work closely with their DevOps and SRE teams because the management of these stateful applications go hand in hand. We had the typo? No. We had the CSI panel, and we talked about a lot of the features which are now standardized. CSI is stable and mature, ready for prime time. Jan said bug-free, and he's going to live with that forever. We also had the data protection and DR session. So we were talking about, we had some good discussion around some of the copy data management techniques. So a lot of this stuff is actually stuff which should be familiar to some of the more traditional systems. But what we're talking about is a lot of the functionality can now be automated and offloaded to things like CSI, but obviously each of the storage solutions implement their own capabilities. But it does enable a lot of use cases, and some of the obvious stuff like taking test environments and putting them into production are an obvious one. But also, as we discussed in some of the examples earlier, it's taking, for example, production data and taking snapshots or clones for test environments to be able to do diagnostics or debugging of production environments. And one of the things that kind of comes out of this is, right, once you have repeatable and declarative operations, the developers now have direct control of the data management. So we're no longer dependent on infrastructure teams doing all the work. The developers actually control all of this. And we talked also about some of the DR stuff. and there was a very interesting picture with a pyramid showing the different levels on the screen, and we kind of went through the iterations from the old way, where we'd try and back up the bottom of the pyramid or the bottom of the infrastructure, and went all the way to the new way using Kubernetes native data management and orchestration, with obviously a few other stops along the way. We talked about data security strategies, so different ways of securing your data. One of the things that came out quite a few times from the panel was you really need to understand the security defaults. You need to understand the responsibilities for each of the layers in the security system, and security is paramount for storage. So. In many ways, we should be expecting the storage systems to have the defaults around things like encryption and RBAC integration. Finally, we just had the talk about multi-cloud and multi-cluster being a future trend and really important for integrating solutions across multiple platforms. And my final closing thoughts. So what's key in all of this is when developers are building their applications and they're integrating with storage providers, they really need to understand the storage requirements of their app. So understanding their performance, scalability, failover, durability, consistency type requirements, or the attributes of their storage system. And therefore understand the capabilities of your storage provider. You'll probably find out that you'll need different storage providers for different use cases potentially. But keep in mind some of the key principles there, where you want storage systems that are application-centric, that are portable and can run across different platforms, and that offer native orchestrator integration and native security. And finally, this is cloud-native storage is empowering to developers, and this is one of the key takeaways. Developers can now manage their storage and direct some of the most advanced technologies that are being offered here. The developers get to make the decisions, and there's one big change, right? In the past, applications used to have to be built around the storage that was available to them in their particular on-premise infrastructure. But we're now moving to a new phase where the storage system is actually composed and orchestrated to work best with the application. And this is a really big difference going forward. So finally, on that note, I'll say thank you to everyone, and I'll hand over to Lisa.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. So you can hang out here for a second. Don't leave. I don't want to have you on stage by myself too much today. You're staying here. So I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to especially thank the 12 partners that I worked with to put this day on. Everybody was amazing. As I said in the beginning, I am very passionate about architecting communities, particularly open source communities, and running this conference today like an open source community event was super fun for me. And it was great because everybody really approached it with a community hat. We are all passionate about cloud native storage, and we're defining this category, and these are the companies that are making it happen. And so I thank every single one of them that involved, and my content steering committee and my logistics steering committee. Just completely awesome to work with you. So one more time for all of our partners in crime here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. A couple of logistical notes. Oh. Thank you. One more logistical note. Please don't forget to take your t-shirt. So you have a raffle ticket, but basically as you walk out the door, just turn left. April's got them all out there. Is April back in the room? I keep trying to thank April. Maybe April can hear me, but thank you, April. April did all of these logistics, and she was amazing, and this day wouldn't have happened without her. So please thank April as you get your shirt. Like, really, really give her huge thanks. And then we are going to email a survey to you so that you can help us make this day better in San Diego, as if it could get any better. I'll sort out the logistical items with the computers and maybe enforce the rule. Lightning talks, if they're going to be 3.5 minutes, you have to give me your slides ahead of time. And like not 10 minutes ahead of time, like Friday would have been great. So that's on us. Sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. And we will sort out all of that. But we are going to email you a survey, and we really hope you fill it out. and that you tell us honestly what we can do to make this better, more fun, and also tell us what you really liked about it so you keep those elements of that in the day. Any other things, logistics or questions or things I'm forgetting to say? Because I'm really tired. Okay, I deserved that. All right, take a bow. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great conference. Enjoy KubeCon.